authentically peculiar, authentically peculiar, authentically peculiar.
Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Welcome to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, Season 3. I am so elated that we are going to be able to interview multiple guests as we are discussing the year of self. During this year, we're going to talk about financial wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness, the journey to authenticity, overcoming trauma, and so much more. So stay tuned. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, and even comment on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I am super excited about this episode. The two young ladies that I have with me here today are super women. And I know I always say take the S off your chest. Don't worry about that super. But let me tell you a little background about their stories. Both of these young ladies are COVID-19 survivors. And when I say survivors, I'm not saying they got COVID, lasted a few days, and then it was done. I am saying survivors from a place of near death. Although COVID began in 2019 and it's now 2024, they have been on a 5-year journey of healing. And that journey has caused them, and they're going to tell you their story, that journey has caused them to have to fight doctors, to have to prove their invisible illnesses associated with COVID, and then having to even convince family and friends that they weren't well. And I'm not describing not well as a way to say victim or anything of that nature. I'm saying that when you have invisible illnesses, those illnesses make people think that you're faking until you live it. So today, I want to welcome Miss Karen Watkins and Miss Jozie Edwards to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. So whichever one wants to start their journey and tell their story, Karen, of course, is leaning toward Jozie. So
chicken. But I embrace you and I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your platform to share our stories. Authentically.
with Marcia.
With Marcia. I am Jozie Edwards. My story starts from August 2021. I went to a business convention on vacation from my full time, and I came back with COVID. I cannot be around cigarette smoke, and typically, anytime I'm around it, I have an upper respiratory infection. In this case, I came back with COVID. I found out maybe a week and a half afterward. Well, I found out I had COVID the following week, but I was in the hospital from August 17th, 2021 until September 26th, 2021. 5 weeks with people I did not know, trusting God, trusting their care, hoping I would get out alive, begging them not to put me on the vent every morning they came in. Very traumatic experience. But we survived, praise God. But just because I survived and I might extra hair does not mean that I'm suffering. And when I park and have to walk somewhere, and I park in handicap because I'm considered handicapped. I'm handicapable in most areas, but nonetheless, I'm still trusting God for my healing. But even with that, people think when they look at me, I'm doing okay. But the worst part of it all is right here.
Mm.
Because even though I may not feel well, the fact that I don't feel well affects the way I look at myself. I often have conversations with myself where I'm like, if you had just stayed home, this wouldn't have happened to you. You would have been able to buy your house, you and your kids would have been living in a new space. And I just spiral out of control and I end up in my bed and I stay there for days. So thank God for therapists like Marcia, because if we had not had her, I cannot sit here and tell you without any doubt, I would not have been here, period.
Well, we're so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Karen, you want to share you?
Sure, thank you as
You're
well for the
welcome.
platform, and thank you, Ms. Jozie, for being here with me. My name is Karen Watkins, and my experience started January 2021. It started, I was working from home actually, but it started with my mom calling, or my dad calling me about my mom not feeling well around New Year's. And so anytime that they call, I'm there for them. So, you know, he was very concerned about her. So he had me come and check on her. And I did just that, got her to no one could get her to go to the doctor but me. So I encouraged her to go to the urgent care. And I assured her that no matter what they said she had or didn't have, that I was going to be there for her, you know, because she was really concerned about having COVID. And she went to the urgent care. They told her she was negative. And I can see it was like tears of joy that came over her because she was just so glad that they said negative. My sister and I went and picked up her meds in the pharmacy, started all the medicines, did what the doctor said, but by the next day, they said seemed like it wasn't helping. She was getting worse. And then I went back to check on her again, checked the pulse swab, did all of the works, all her vitals. And I left everything with my sister and my dad. And I told them, you know, keep a check on it. If it got any lower than a certain by Tuesday, by that Tuesday morning, that's exactly what happened. I was waking up with a call saying mom's oxygen level was very low, called the ambulance. And from that day on, well, first the ambulance came and they didn't take her. They said there was not much they could do.
If you all recall, at the height of
Mm-hmm.
COVID, they would tell you that if you were not near death, you couldn't come to the hospital. And so understanding that when they first got there, she had enough pulse ox energy running through her body for them to say not yet.
Yeah, and they said, you know, if you decide to go later, call us back. So when they called me back and said that they didn't take her, I immediately called her doctor. And he was furious. And he told us to call the ambulance right back. And they better take her to the hospital ASAP. And from the point, the ambulance came and got her. And she never came back home to us.
Yeah.
She was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Getting worse. And after she was admitted, I took my dad and I to get tested. We were negative, they said initially. 2 days later, I'm positive. And my life has been changed ever since January the 8th.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, those that lost loved ones to COVID, can resonate with that negative, positive, and then they no longer around. I lost 8 family members to COVID. But you two, my survivors, have gone through plethoras of testing. You've gone through, what brought you all into me was high levels of anxiety, sleep dysfunction, depression, and things of that nature. So will either one of you care to share what the mental health journey has been like with COVID and long haul COVID?
Did you want to go first?
Okay.
Okay. for me, it has been a journey of trying to convince doctors that you really are sick.
Mhm.
Now, while we understand and we are amenable to the fact that they don't know a lot, at least back then, they didn't know a lot about COVID, and everybody's symptoms are not the same. I never lost my sense of taste. I never lost my sense of smell. But there were other aspects of it that were different that I had that she might not have suffered from. So the hardest part for me are my lungs, because I was on oxygen from the time I left the hospital in September 21 until my birthday 2023. I went back to see my lung doctor in March 24. I told her something wasn't right. I couldn't tell her what it was. I'm not a doctor, but I know something's not right. And I was pretty much dismissed and told that I should see a psychiatrist and let them put me on something because I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't sleeping because I can't rest, this and the other, blah, 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 blah. But long story short, I pressed. So you have to advocate for yourself. Don't take for granted what they're telling you is 100% true. Do your own research and press for yourself. So that's what I did. And in the midst of pressing, her PA ordered a sleep test. They were supposed to call me and let me know whether or not it had been approved by my insurance. Never heard from them. Come home one day from a doctor's appointment, there's a door hanger from an oxygen company. I called them. They said, oh, well, you've been approved for the sleep test. We need to bring you your monitor. I'm like, she never even called me. I didn't even know. So we arranged for them to bring it. They came in that Monday and brought it to me. They told me how to use it. Long story short, I used it, called them, they picked it up. I was livid from that last doctor's appointment. I was talking to a friend and she was like, we're going to find you a long-haul COVID doctor. So all this is going on. I'm having a conversation in my head because I had almost allowed her to convince me it really was in my head. And I was depressed about it and I cried about it for days. And I finally talked to my therapist about it. And she told me, you know your body, you know it's something going on. Stand strong. We got this. We're going to get you through this. So we found this long haul COVID doctor. I reached out to him. I got on his schedule. But in the meantime, the oxygen people called me back and said, hey, we're going to bring you your oxygen concentrator. I said, hold up, wait a minute. What you talking about? And they were like, well, you qualify for nocturnal oxygen because it dips to 72% when you sleep. I said, excuse me? So there really was something wrong with me? And she didn't call to discuss this to me? Because you got test results. Didn't hear a word from her to this day. This happened in March or April, early April. So anyway,
Let me stop for a real quick second. I want you to go back to even before we got to that point on the mental health side, the anxiety,
oh my God,
the fear of sleeping, the depression, the suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a moment.
Okay. For me, during my hospital experience, one night I almost coded. I dropped to 50% oxygen. I just told the girl who was making up my bed, I just don't feel right. She said, what's wrong? She looked up, the monitor was going crazy. All of a sudden, everybody just ran into the room, and I'm looking like, oh my God, what is going on? They picked that big, huge cannula back on my nose that literally fills both sides of your nostrils. You cannot breathe on your own. It's breathing for you. It's forcing air into your body. I went all the way back to that, which was stage 1 when I first went in the hospital. And we're talking 4 weeks later, I'm back at stage 1 again. So it went up and down. I cried a lot in the hospital. I wanted to see my kids. I couldn't see my children. I had a doctor that would come in. Well, we'd like to use you for a test product, and then case study, sir. No, because I might not survive that. I got too much going on. I'm not doing that. So know that you can say no. It's your choice. You do not have to let them do what they want to do. So they kept trying to convince me I had diabetes, high blood pressure. I just seen my doctor in April. I had nothing.
Mhm.
I was healthy as a horse. So fight for yourself. The mental side of it was, is not a was, it still is. I still struggle. I'm on an anxiety drug now because I wasn't sleeping at night. And I wasn't sleeping because I was afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid if I go to sleep, I'm not going to wake up on this side. I'm going to be somewhere else, hopefully in heaven. But at the end of the day, that's not what I was ready for. So I still, to some point, struggle with that. But if I take that drug, I definitely sleep. The girl is knocked out. But I still have the mental angst about being around people. Like Miss Karen, I always have my mask on. I don't go anywhere without it. I have it right now. I just took it off when we came in here. But long story short, depression is real. Anxiety is real. Both my doctors and my therapists were like, okay, we don't want you staying at home. You need to be around people. Just I said, I don't trust people. These nasty people don't even wash their hands and cover their faces. I don't want to be out here with them. A simple sneeze, I inhale it, and I'm back in the hospital. I don't want that. So I do everything in my power to fight the mental battle. And it's not an every now and then thing. It's a daily thing.
Yes.
So even though we may look healthy, on the mental side of things, we are not.
And what's your mental health journey through the COVID? Your situation is a little different because you got a house full of people and no one, I ain't gonna say no one didn't really believe you, but you were the strong, that one that everybody counted on, and then you started struggling. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was, it's rough when you're, like you said, you're the one that everybody depends on. But when you're down and when you're saying, I don't feel well, something's not right, you, for a few days before I tested positive, I was feeling this way. And I kept saying it. So I just said, I feel like I'm having it's like an out of body experience or something. It's like something is just weird going on, And it was like, well, you're probably just paranoid because your mom just tested positive, Kind of struggling off. Might just, pretty much it was you're paranoid probably because of all that's going on or whatever. But then, like I said, on January the 7th, 2021, I was celebrating my daughter's birthday. January the 8th, 2021, I didn't know if I was going to be here.
Wow.
I woke up, high fever, coughing, body was hurting. And along with all of that, I have autoimmune issues as well. So that on top of COVID on top of all of that is just, COVID alone is terrible.
You ran through.
So it was even more, it was unbearable. So I went to my basement, started trying to work, but I couldn't even finish. I was working online, so I couldn't even finish the job that day because I was sounding worse and worse. My supervisor told me to sign off and to make a doctor's appointment, and that's what I did. Couldn't be seen until that Saturday, and that's when I was told I had COVID. So I was in my basement, did virtual visits with my doctors. They had called any and everything they could to try to get on top of it. And I was just getting worse. So that was on the 8th when I woke up feeling that way. By the 17th, I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. I was choking, I could not breathe, and had my family to call the ambulance. They tried to discourage me from going to the hospital, said that there was not much they were going to be able to do. And I looked at them in their face and said, if I don't go now, I would die. Mind you, my kids were standing around. They hadn't seen me in 8 days in person, and you know how horrific that is. So every time I think about that, the trauma, that caused, and just being in there, my mom was still in the hospital at the time. And I always go back to, I told her I was going to be with her. And I always, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
I always say I had to get to the hospital because I ended up like down the hall
Wow.
from her.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I don't know if she realized I was in the hospital or not, but she knew I had got sick
Mm-hmm.
because I was calling and talking to her every day. But when she didn't hear from me, she knew something was wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that was rough. And the night before she passed, I didn't know that she was at the state that she was passing.
Mm-hmm. Because you were still in the
Because I was
hospital.
still in the hospital as well. And they didn't tell me because they didn't want to stress me any more than I was.
Mm-hmm.
But that night I could not sleep. I tossed and turned and prayed all night for my mom. And when I got that call that morning saying that she had passed, I don't know. I told you I don't know where that voice came from because I could barely talk when I was in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But I screamed so loud that the doctors and the nurses came in, you know, to tell them what was going on. They was praying over me, praying with me, supporting me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's where I
That's
was.
where you both were.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And my mom passed away in 17.
Oh,
And
wow.
Henry, that's the first thing that came to mind when they put me in there.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So did mine
The
in
trauma.
2016.
Wow.
Wow.
So the trauma continues.
Yeah.
And-
So,
and
so
wow.
I told her, I always say that I feel like my mom took her last breath
That's okay.
for me so that I could live. And that's what I hold dear to me. But through all of that, like she said, you know, you have family and friends around because you look okay. They're used to you going, regardless of what you feel like.
Yeah.
They expect you to come back, get back into the normal things. But you know, when I got home, I begged the doctors actually to get home because I didn't want to miss my mom's service.
Mm.
You know, but it's mhm,
I need to figure out why it's not
Mhm.
picking all three of us up.
but
Okay,
it's
yeah. Right.
emotionally.
Cut that part out.
I'm sorry,
Emotional.
but emotionally, it's been very overwhelming, draining, because it's like nobody understands.
Right.
It's like I'm there for everybody.
Right.
But who's
Right.
there for you when you're going
Yeah.
through without you having to ask or to tell them or to say exactly what you need. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like sometimes it's nice to just be able to, somebody thought about you and you don't have to tell them. Because to me, it means more when you don't have to tell them everything. That you can, they don't have to tell me everything. Whenever somebody's going through something, you imagine what you would need or what you would feel,
Right.
someone, you know. So it's that part is hard.
Yeah.
And then the doctors, like you said, it was new to everybody, and I'm very grateful and thankful for all of my doctors. I can say they have all been very supportive.
That's good.
And they listen and they've heard me, and so they've helped me through this journey. Every one of them. To this day, I'm still seeing every ologist there is. You know, finally, I can say in 2024, I can see progress. Finally.
And see, the difference in your journey is your doctors believed you pretty much from the beginning. Josie's doctors didn't.
Not all of them.
In fact, in the beginning, when she first started coming to therapy, I was angry because they were trying to force her back to work. I think it was one doctor that said, "Oh, well, it's all in your head," or something of that nature, trying to get her to go back to work. And her insurance called me, and I don't professionally cuss people out, but I cussed them out that day because I knew literally she was only sleeping maybe 4 hours.
And that was off and on, I'm sure.
Most it would be too.
It would be off mostly because of her fear. What happens if I go to sleep?
Same fear I had. Yeah. Didn't want to close my eyes. I mean, I didn't realize at the time that I remember one night I had a full blown just anxiety. I was shaking, everything. And I couldn't understand why. Why am I afraid to go to sleep? My brain won't shut down. You know, and I finally, someone asked me the question, what are you afraid of? And that's when it dawned on me, I'm afraid I won't wake up.
And you all journeyed through that process where I had you both to start writing when you were sleeping and reciting some different affirmations on getting you to a peace point
Mm-hmm.
that you could control in order to really give your body the rest, because we know when there is a chronic illness, your body needs to rest because it has to have time to recover
Mm-hmm.
and to come back. I want to switch gears just a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and talk about what it's like to be in a black and brown body going to doctors who try to textbook you
Mm-hmm.
when you don't fit. What were some of your experiences? Karen, tell us.
Well, they look at you because you are your age,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll say, well, with your age, you normally wouldn't see this, or you wouldn't see that, or even with lab work, just because the lab work doesn't equal to what you feel like and what you're going through, they'll say, well, we've done numerous labs, but they doesn't show this and doesn't show that. But I'm telling them there's no reason for me to come. At that time, I was going to the doctor. I had a doctor's appointment 5 days a week, sometimes 6, multiple doctors, sometimes in a day. Who does that?
Right.
If you're not trying to live,
Right.
who does that?
Mhm.
All the co-payments, all of the traveling, and my doctors are not like right up the street from
Right.
me. So when I kept having to stress that, who does that?
Mhm.
I'm trying to live. God gave me another chance. I'm trying to live.
Mhm. Mhm.
My kids need me.
Mhm.
And I know that's why I'm here today. That was my main thing. My kids. I don't want anybody else raising my kids.
Mhm.
My kids need me.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've never gave up,
Mhm.
regardless
How
of
dark
how
it got.
how dark it
Mhm.
got, because I know there's a purpose.
What
And
about? I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
but yeah, those were the main things for me: age, and because of your peers. Yeah, I had the autoimmune issues, but on appearance, you look fine, you look healthy. Otherwise, and they'll minimize the autoimmune, other than this or that, but something's wrong,
Exactly.
and it affected so many different areas from the vestibular issues,
Mhm.
um, organ issues, heart, lungs, liver, gallbladder, all of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you can't see all of that,
Right.
Right.
but they don't know what you feel like. And just because we walk with a smile, because we know whose hands we are.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And we hold our head up no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
We don't look like what we go through, so they can understand. Well, if you're feeling this way and if you're this bad,
Mhm.
how are you functioning? It's
I
not
don't have a choice. I don't have a
that's it.
choice. And that's the thing that I want doctors to really understand. And Josie, I'm gonna come to you.
That's fine.
In our community, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice to lay down on sickness and hope and pray that someone is going to hear us and want us to be healed.
Right.
We have to dig deep and want that, for ourselves.
Right.
One thing that Josie and I talked about, and I said, we got to find a doctor that can specialize in all the stuff that you got going on. Because in this specialization, I need somebody to understand the importance of your healing. So tell us about the journey for you when you finally got doctors that listened and then wanted to do the work.
Well, I'll start with my PCP. My PCP at the beginning of this, we didn't know each other. So while I was lying in the hospital, they getting ready to let me go. I'm trying to find a PCP, and what was most important was to find one close to me because I couldn't drive. So my daughter would have to take me, and if you've ever ridden with her, you know why. But anyway, I'm just having fun. You gotta laugh. So she drives very well, but this person was only one exit from my house. They have now moved all the way to Douglasville. So imagine what going to Douglasville is like now. And I love her. But in the beginning, she felt that you're working from home. You're not out in traffic. It's any other. You should be able to go back to work. I said, okay, I'm going to have to pay a visit to you so you can understand what I'm going through.
But she was saying that while she was seeing you over a screen.
Right, over the screen. So, pardon me, I finally go to see her. I'm dragging in the oxygen tank, and she looked at me like, "Damn, Edwards." I said, "Yeah, it's me." The same one you saw on screen last month. This is what I really look like. This is what I really go through. I put my post ox on. She looked down. Oxygen was dropping because I was trying to walk, and the heart rate was going crazy. And she was like, "Oh my God, I get it." So she's been wonderful since then. Pulmonologist, not so much. In the beginning, the pulmonologist and the heart doctors were blaming each other.
It was about
How crazy is this? Months, okay? So finally, we get some answers. I have to have a heart test, stress test. I was scared beyond belief. I'm claustrophobic. So the idea of putting me in something that you can't put me in sleep. Can you give me something to put me in sleep? It's not going for me. So blood pressure shot straight up. Got to calm me down, tell me step by step what's going to happen, like you're dealing with a kid, because psychologically, this is eating me alive. And I finally got through that. We discovered there is a problem in that area, so we're working on that. But having the long haul COVID doctor, when he was going over all my notes and we were having our conversation, he said, "I have never had a patient that's been on oxygen for 2 years, ever. I've seen 600 patients. I've never had one that's been on oxygen for 2 years." I said, "Well, guess what? I'm going to be on oxygen at night, so I'm back on it." And then we started having a conversation about that. And we discovered that, the lack of oxygen has caused me to have other mental issues, like my cognitive abilities are not at 100%.
Exactly.
I can't focus. I can't do more than one thing at a time. My job was a high stress job. I worked for someone top at a government facility, and I had to keep all these balls in the air. Imagine me trying to do that now. I can't. And no matter how much I tell myself I can, I know I can't. So now I have to play brain games to fire the cylinders back in my brain to get me back to where my memory would be normal, where I can recall things. Short term was a joke, pretty much still is. So I put everything on my calendar, my bills, my doctor's appointments, my conversations if I have to, because I just don't remember anymore. And they try to say, "Oh, well, that's your age." I'm 58. Don't do that.
Right.
I'm not 80. No offense to the 80-year-olds that still got it going on. You do you, boo. But I, in my opinion, was not there. So you're not going to sit here and say, "Oh, that's your age. Oh, that's this. Oh, that." No, this is all COVID.
Exactly.
Period. Because I was fine until I caught it.
Absolutely. And so when you think about your journey now, getting into therapy, finally attaching to doctors that hear and come up with plans, how does that make you feel now? Does it make you feel like you're back in some form of control over your wellness, your physical and mental wellness? What does that feel like?
It's encouraging.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it gives you hope.
Yeah.
And it's like weight lifted off.
Okay.
Like you can finally breathe. Even with the respiratory issues that we have, you can still breathe and know that there's, I think, hope. To feel like you do have a chance.
Wow.
I can agree. Finally having people listen has made a difference. Now, you've been an ace.
Yes.
So aside from you and for you lobbying on our behalf, to have people actually are paid to listen and respond according to what we're telling you, it really has made a difference.
Yeah.
A big difference.
And it decreases the anxiety and the depression. You still have, like you say, you still go through those moments, but I can say that they're not to the degree that there was.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
agree with
I
that
can
too.
honestly
Yeah.
say that over the last couple of years, and I know that insurance companies pre-COVID expect everybody to come through therapy and be done and healed in 6 weeks. And it
Mm-mm.
just does not happen like
Mm-mm.
that when you're dealing with chronic situations.
Mm-mm.
And what would be a message either one of you all would actually share with people who may not necessarily be responding or coming out of COVID, but having a chronic illness? What would be some of the things that you all would share with them that has been most helpful for you as you've gone through this journey?
Okay.
Definitely therapy. And I know in our community, therapy is frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
I have relatives who I promise you could benefit from therapy, but they feel like there's nothing wrong with them. It's us.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you sit in that, you won't get the help that you need. Our DNA is coded with trauma hundreds of years ago. We walk around with chip on shoulders, because you hear that a lot. Microaggressions at work, things that you let slide, that if you say something, you might lose your job. All of that. Everybody else can say, but you can't.
Right.
That's BS. But at the end of the day, therapy definitely helps. And I'm a God-fearing woman. I have a personal relationship with God. I ain't all the way 100%. These judgmental people try to put you, okay? So at the end of the day, I pray and I have a relationship with God, but I also know that God put people in place to help you. We are not islands. We are not to do this alone. And a lot of us, and I can say us because I'm still to some point guilty of this, will be going through things and you don't tell people. And you're sitting and wallowing and just being overwrought with things. And you just don't feel like you want to burden other people. Because that's how I feel. I felt at the beginning that my being ill was taking a toll on my friendships. And I felt like my friends were having a problem talking to me because every time I talked, all I talked about was how sick I was. So I started to pull back because I noticed them pulling back. So I started pulling back and I was like, okay, well, maybe they don't talk to you because, they don't want to hear that, blah, blah. And you don't want to be a burden to people. Well, I don't want to be a burden to my family either. So guess what I do? Keep it to myself. This one over here, when we talk in therapy, you don't look right. What's going on? She can pick it up.
Sure can.
And she will let me know. I'm going to need you to talk about that. Let's sit here for a minute. And I trust her with my life.
Yes.
And I know that the things I share with her will not be shared. Not at all.
That's right.
Not at all.
Definitely
Not getting paid for this interview. In fact, I was the one that came to her and said, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this on camera. Because people need to know. Long haul COVID people are still out here hurting. We're still out here suffering. We're going through a lot of financial things. People are just taking it for granted. And we're not where everybody else is. We're not in positions where we can go back to work. For someone to say, and yes, I did hear this, I don't believe she got COVID. I think she's faking. Do you think I would be going through all of this for fun? For a disability
the
check?
truth is they don't know your story.
Even if they did.
But see, and I'm not trying to give them a pass on why they would think that, because there are a lot of people out there, unfortunately, that are in the system getting money and things like that and getting assistance and may not have the depth of disability that you all have, right? And so I could see a little bit why someone would say that. And that's the reason why it's so important to get your stories out, because I'm certain that there are other long haul COVID individuals they think they're on an island. Remember, I told you, I talked to a veteran when I began to explain some of your symptoms and some of your symptoms, she broke down and cried. And she said, "You mean I'm not the only one?" I said, "You are not. Here are some things that two of my clients have done. Here's what you need to ask your doctors about to help you. If we don't spread the message, there are people who are mentally tormented because, and this is the grief part of COVID, it's not about the physical loss and all those beautiful lives that was lost to COVID. It really is about the loss of normalcy that you have created in your life. In both of you all's situation, there have been some financial degrades that you've had to go through. Of course, your physical decline, the mental health decline, trying to get yourself to a place of functioning. One of the things I share with both of you all is we have to create new normals.
Right.
Because if we keep allowing our mind to go back to the old normal, that increases that anxiety and increases that depression because we're going through that loss. But if we create new normals, we get to trick our brain to say, what was that back then? Versus, okay, this is where we are now. This is how we're functioning. And you all's choice to live is actually part of that new normal. Both of you all, I've seen you all will text me or call me and say, all right, here's what the diagnosis was. This last surgery, you was like, okay, I got my fifth doctor's appointment. This is what it is. And it's like, okay, let's go. This is what we're praying for. This is what we're believing for. This is how we're operating in it. And this is what I need you to do before surgery. This is what I need you to do after surgery. Everything is attached to mindset.
Yeah.
When you can have a healthy mindset, even in trauma, you give yourself a higher chance to heal. You give yourself a higher chance for vitality. And when you also decide that it doesn't matter what others think about your journey because they're not in your body.
Right.
I remember going through everything that I went through for years before being finally diagnosed with asthma. I was told she's faking this, she's being dramatic, until I passed out at work to get taken to the emergency room to be saying, how long have you had asthma? The who? When? And so learning how to live through chronic disorders and diagnosis, learning how to live with them, understanding them, doesn't mean that you're taking them on. Like when you all introduce yourself to people, you're not going, hi, I'm Jozie. Hi, I'm Karen. I'm a long haul COVID survivor. Those are just symptoms and extensions of you. Some people literally get dressed in their diagnosis. And I honestly believe that because you didn't allow yourself, I didn't allow you to get dressed in your diagnosis, you gave yourself permission to live. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, everything you said is absolutely on point. And one thing that I would tell myself every day is, it's what I have, but it won't have me.
I like it.
And that's what I stand on to help push myself. Yeah, I have this, but it's not going to help me.
Yeah, I'm diagnosed with it, but yeah.
And that's what helps me. And like she said, the spiritual connection, the support group, you have helped tremendously. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
And, definitely a godsend.
Walking in your, you walking in,
Am I walking in my mountain?
You are walking in your anointing.
Yes, and those things are definitely important. Like you said, mindset. You know, being able to start. You know, you don't even realize sometimes, because when you're going through so much, you don't even realize how bad off things are until you get to a breaking point,
right?
Where you're like, I got to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the two of you all for lending your voice to this topic. Thank you for suggesting it. Thank you for pushing past your fears and saying, okay, can I get behind the camera? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You're going to be right here with us. And because no one can tell your story.
Right.
Right.
No one will understand your story. How both of you all survived coming through oxygen, body pain, fears, worry, stress, all this new stuff of anxiety, depression, trying to figure out how to learn how to breathe again, trying to figure out how do I get from my front door to my car? How do I get in my car and drive? I remember Jozie calling me. She was in the car, had her oxygen tank, and traveling by herself. And I said, hey, what's going on with your breathing? I need you to pull over. Let's bring this down. Let's come on back. I hear you, but I need some fresh oxygen moving. I need some fresh oxygen moving. And even with you, I need you to breathe. I need some oxygen moving through there because as long as we have fresh oxygen moving, our brains are clear. And in that, I am so grateful that I was chosen to be on this journey with you all and to see the progress that you all have made. And I want to say to those in the audience, I can't be everybody's therapist, and I'm not trying to be, but I am saying go to therapy. Because even if you don't have diagnosed chronic illnesses like these ladies are going through, if you suffer with chronic anxiety and depression, get you a therapist that can journey through with you, not one that's looking to just make money, not one that's looking to get her fame from it or whatever. I remember Jozie first came, her insurance was all over the place, and she's like, I don't know how I'm gonna pay you. I said, well, I don't remember asking.
She did, yeah.
And in fact, I jumped on her because she forced the payment through, but I knew her financial situation. I said, look at here. Stay out of my portal. I got this. Because what I've learned is when you are appointed and anointed to do a job, God gonna take care of everything else. Even though I label myself the intellectual heathen, but I do know what God do through me, right? And so, please, 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 don't be ashamed to go to therapy. You are not on an isolated island by yourself. There are others that are suffering. There are others that are healing and overcoming, and you can too. Any last words, ladies, to the audience that you want to say?
Well, I will say be encouraged, never give up, advocate for yourself, and connect with a therapist to help you through
I totally agree with everything Miss Karen said.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, know, as her t-shirt says, you are enough.
Absolutely.
And in the event you still don't feel like you are, find a tribe that helps cheer you on and convinces you that you are.
Exactly.
Stand in front of your mirror, see all the flaws, and know you still flawless in God's eyes.
Yes, you are still enough.
Yeah.
So until the next episode, I do want to shout them out. PJ Bling, go out there. Please support by purchasing some jewelry. $5 jewelry as a paparazzi consultant, as one of the top consultants that I believe is out there in the business. Miss Karen, creative all things, whether it's t-shirts, events, putting events together. I want you all to go out and utilize their services so that we can continue to push finances their way. Because whenever you hit a chronic situation like this, I don't care how much money you put into Social Security and all that kind of stuff, them folks will try to stop you from getting all of your benefits. The last thing that you need when you're going through is financial duress. So whatever you all can do, if they give me their cash apps, I'll post it on the video. You all can bless them if you don't want to order anything, whatever that needs to look like. I just want them to be on a continuous journey of healing, sharing their truth, sharing their story. It is a tribe. It is a connection. It is a community in order for us to get you all to the place of healing. So until the next time, thank you for watching Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Thank you to my guests. Thank you to your story. And thank you to the journey of us always being our authentic self. Take good care on your favorite streaming app.